First off, everybody, happy Memorial Day. Thank you all for your service. And with that, I will go ahead and turn the show over to Mike tonight, who's got, I think, and I hope, a really interesting presentation. You're all yours.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of goofing around. So tonight, I'm going to tie a bass bug, which I haven't done in years. We talked about, some stuff on the St. Louis program a while back, spinning deer hair and different kind of stuff. And so I just thought, a couple of other presentations we had from Tim Jacobs and everything on how he does things. I just thought I'd give it a whirl. And for one thing, I want to recommend his book, Tying and Fishing Deer Hair Flies. You can find it on Amazon, I believe. Really, really informative, but a lot of good stories kind of mixed into it, real similar to how Al and Gretchen do their books. And I'm down one camera, so all I'll have is this and the Vice camera for tonight. So first of all, this is kind of an example of how you can hopefully tie decent looking flies when you don't have exactly the right materials. And a lot of the stuff that I'm using is probably subpar for tying the best, show flies for deer hair. But I'll explain it as I go along that, what the differences are and what you should be looking for. I'm going to start with the hook. It's a pretty big hook. That's a 1/0. And at the Denver Fly Show, I got some hooks from Jeff Rowley. And this is his bass pack. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4 different styles of hooks. And most of them are 2/0, and this is the 1/0. That's a little bit smaller. Jeff Rowley recommends, and most people recommend using GSP thread for really stacking, really packing in deer hair. And so all of the GSP that I have is smaller diameters. Some of this Semperfli, this is 50 denier. And the problem with the smaller diameters is you'll cut the deer hair. You really have to put a lot of pressure on it to do some of the techniques. And that thread is so fine. It's very, very fine, but very strong, so it can just cut right through the deer hair. Another thing, this is a real shiny, real nice, slick hook. And what I'm going to actually be using is Kevlar thread. It's very strong, but it's wide in diameter. So it's not as likely to cut the deer hair. So since I'm using a Kevlar thread, just like GSP, is pretty slick, and that's a very slick hook. I have a little strip of, this is 1000 denier sandpaper, 1000 grit sandpaper. And you can use a file, but I just want to kind of take the back end here and just rough it up a little bit. Just to take some of that gloss off of it. And then another thing I'm going to do just to get started is put a little bit of super glue right there at the bend of the hook, where this is basically where the tail section is going to be, the tail of the fly, which is actually the legs and the tail end if this was a frog or whatever. So I'm going to start my thread back here. And wrap over that super glue. Actually, you know what? If I can get this off, I have a better idea for the tail section. Since this is such a heavy, thick diameter, I was able to get that off. But I'll cut that loose since it's got some super glue on it. I am actually going to use that, let's see, got some olive right here. I am going to use that nano silk for the tail section because there's a lot of materials to tie on to give you the legs and that, little bit that hangs off of the back of this fly. And if I was using that Kevlar thread, I'm afraid I would really cause a huge amount of bulk with all that thread, all the thread wraps that you have to do. So nice tight wraps over that super glue. And then I'll cut that loose. Now, on the back end of the fly, you want some stuff that'll move a little bit in the as it's floating on the surface, and just a lot of different textures. So most people will use marabou, some rubber leg type material, even a little bit of crystal flash. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of, say, some yellow marabou. And this has got real fluffy stuff here on the sides. So I think I'm going to actually just strip that away from the rachis. And then I'll put some yellow. Let me, right there on top. And with all this stuff that I'm putting on for the tail, I don't really want to go much past the point of the hook. So that's in there nice and secure. Now I'm going to take some, this is like from a bass skirt, some rubber leg material. And I'll take about 3 strands of this right here. And I'll kind of in the center of it, I'll fold it around my thread. Then I can take that and just set it down. Actually, I want to set it down right toward the front there on top of the hook. And then I can tightly tie that down without it going all over the place. So there's my rubber leg material. And that's just about the right length. I could probably cut off maybe a half an inch here. And then let's do maybe a little bit of flash. I'll put some gold in there. I have a slit in my package here. I'm going to use, there's a toothpick. Just reach in there and grab easier said than done. Reach in there and grab a strand or two out. I'll go with 3 again. And I'll cut that loose. Pulling it through the package like that kind of helps keep it from getting tangled. And I'll do the same with that flash. Fold it in half around my thread. And then I can set it right up on top. Tie that down. And again, I'll cut that right toward the back there. Now maybe a little bit of, that's way too much, little olive marabou. I'll do the same thing where I take some off the side. Nice, real tight wraps. That's plenty, so I'll go ahead and cut the waste out of there. And then just tie all this down so I have a smooth. Now you can see if I was using that Kevlar thread, I would have like quite a bump there. Now for the legs, it's better if you have it to use hen hackle. What I'm going to try to do is that one has quite a bit of curve to it, but I'll have 2 of these on one side and 2 on the other side as the legs to hang off the back. So I'm going to curve these out. And the reason that hen hackle is better, it's webby. And so when that gets wet, it's not so likely to just lay down against the rachis like a rooster hackle would, or just like a regular saddle hackle. So I'm going to put that right out toward the end of that marabou. Put it on the far side. Take a few wraps and then see how that looks. I'll take these other 2. Line them up. Now I'm going to cut all those rake eye out of the way. And then again, nice tight wraps over all of that to make sure nothing moves around. Then I want to come right back up on top of that. So you can see I have, from my thumbnail back, I have a big glob there where I've tied everything in. And I'm going to take a couple of, these are kind of a chartreuse grizzly saddle hackle. And I don't want it to be that long. I'm going to take some of this longer stuff off. And then I'll tie these in. And I'll do them one at a time. These are long enough I could just hold them. These are almost like schloppen, real kind of webby. I'll go ahead and tie that one off before I drop it again. And then I'll wrap this one forward. Cut those loose. And just tie all this down nice and tight. Now, if that was regular thread, as many times as I've hit the point of that hook, I'd be breaking it. So that's the hackle, kind of a skirt back there. Now, in order to keep that, first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and whip finish this thread. Because I need to switch to that heavier diameter thread for the, I'll just do like that. Just to keep all of this out of the way. This is a Jim Jacobs trick. Take some bright thread. And just tie a band back there. You could also use a slit, like a drinking straw with a slit in it. This doesn't have to be too secure. Just put a couple half hitches. Get it around there. Then what I can do later then is just come in there and cut that band out of there and free all of that stuff. out of the way. Now, for the deer hair, um, ideally, what you want to use for these bass bugs, and this is to make them look like, you know, like these, like what, uh, real bright white belly like that, and vivid colors, is to use belly hair, deer belly hair that's white, and then when they dye it, um, it's a nice solid bright color. Um, a lot of the spinning hair that I have is just regular deer hair, not belly hair, because you can see the tips and it's dyed. But you can tell by the real thick stems. This is real visible on this olive. You can see it's like almost corrugated where it's zigzags back and forth. That tells you that it has a lot of the pithy air pockets in it. Um, so I've got some yellow, some red that I don't use very much, some black, red, yellow, black, and olive. So I think what I'm going to try to do is make the belly yellow. And the top will be mostly olive, and then I'll do some like stripes or spots or whatever it turns out to be. So I'm going to grab a big chunk of this deer hair. Cut it close to the skin, and I'll show you what happens if you don't. I've got an example from when I first started tying. And when you're spinning or stacking deer hair, here's my comb. Well, I have a mustache comb that I usually use, but you just want to make sure you pull all of the under fur out from underneath it. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the stacker. And then put my Kevlar thread on there. And I'm actually going to do an underbody. I used to think that in order to spin deer hair, you want to slick bare hook to be able to spin it around. But it will spin on uh, it'll spin on a thread base as well. But when you pack it, it's a lot easier to hold it in place uh, so it doesn't slip back forward if you have that thread on the shank. So I'm going to start with that. Oh, I wanted to show you. If you look right here in this clump, you can see where I just got in there and cut some deer hair because that was the length that I thought I wanted. And so that's in the way of getting the deer hair behind it. So you always want to cut it as close as you can to the hide. I'm going to take that clump of yellow and I'm going to make this kind of a more of a skirt. So I'm gonna wrap around it. 1, 2, and just barely start to flare it, and then let it start to spin around, but then I'm going to stop it with my finger. So what I did was just flare it on the bottom. I used a spin because it's hard to work against the point of the hook, but I just if I bring the thread through, now most of that yellow's on the bottom. I'm going to take another clump. Put that on the bottom. Now I'm going to take some olive right on top of it. Clean out all the underfur. And then I'll stack it. Now, I'm using smaller bunches of deer hair because I have a small stacker. If you're going to do a lot of these fast bugs, you're going to want to invest in a large hair stacker. You can fit larger bundles of deer hair in them, and the hair will be more free inside the stacker and it'll stack easier. That's better. And then in that same spot, without moving my thread forward at all, I'm going to come over that olive and just pinching it. I'm going to pull straight down. So now I have olive on top and yellow on the bottom. Now I'm going to take a couple wraps around the shank there. And then I'm going to take this hair packer, and that's the reason that you wanted that super glue in the at the back, because if you start really horsing on this and pushing on it, you can end up pushing the tail section down around the bend. So now I'm going to do a little bit more yellow on the bottom. Clean it out. Now I'm not going to have to stack it because since I'm not really working on the collar anymore, I can basically just cut the ends, cut the tips off and not worry about it being stacked. So I'm going to come around it a couple times and then let it go to the bottom, but then hold it. Oh, my thread. I broke Kevlar thread. That's how tight I was pulling on it. Okay. So that yellow's on the bottom. This is going to get ugly before it gets beautiful. And hopefully it'll be beautiful. Another bunch of olive. And that same plane. Take a few wraps around the shank real tight. And then I'll pack it in. Now, having that thread base, that's not so likely. If the hair tilts forward like that, you know it's staying put in the back there. So I'm just pressing all that together to make it all compact. And then so yellow on the bottom and olive on the top. Now I'm going to take some red. Lean it out. Cut off the tips. And in that same spot, I'm just going to flare it right there. And then I'll kind of squish it around there. Get a little bit of black. That's probably too much. About like that. Got those ends even here. And then I'll bring it through. Couple wraps and then just pack it as tight as I can here. Then we repeat. Now we'll get some red. A good sized clump. Get it nice and clean. Now on this one, I'm going to actually spin it. Might be able to just get one more small clump in there. And then the fun part comes. Now, with all of that, there's some Kevlar. It's going to cause me problems. From when I broke that thread. When I went through, try to find a good tool. I think this will be when I went through and did all that stacking and everything, you are going to end up wrapping down some hairs, crossing some over. So if you can just kind of go through there, there's that thread that tail end of that thread that I broke. If you have a real thick bodkin, I'm just using a tweezers just to kind of go through there and make sure not too much is wrapped underneath. Now, the best thing to use to do the trimming is just a old school double-edged razor blade. They have the single edge, you know, with the one side of it's kind of a protective deal. But just to make it more dangerous, if you break these in half, then it's easier to bend them. And, you know, you can bend them to make a round shape and everything. If you're trying to cut with a flat surface, it doesn't always work out very good. So,
Hey, Mike,
yeah,
excuse me, but would you put a weed guard on this?
yeah, I have done that before. So what you would do for that, actually, if there's time at the end here, I'll take another hook and kind of show you the basics of a weed guard. So, kind of helps with a rotary vise to be able
Mike,
to.
you need to move your vise to the
Oh,
right.
sorry. Yep.
There you
I
go.
turned it so I could see it, but not so the camera could see it. So I'm just going to kind of, once you cut it, you can't make it any longer. So it's better to start bigger than what you think you're going to do. And just kind of saw bladed a little bit. Now, I'm gonna I have a little trash bin thing. If that doesn't get in my way, usually I hold it up there. No, that is in the way for using this blade. There's also a razor blade holder where you can,
Move your
you know.
camera up a little bit, please.
I forgot to move it back up. I'm gonna try to go higher here so I'm not as much in the camera. What I'm trying to do is just put on my glasses for this part. Kind of work out a basic shape here. My hand was in the way for that one, wasn't it? I'm gonna turn it upside down and I don't want to obstruct the bend of the hook too much. So I'm gonna go kind of aggressive on the bottom here. As you get further down into the body, the hairs are going to be a little bit stiffer. And it gets a little bit easier to trim than this rough cut here. And I'll eventually use scissors on this. See how that spot didn't turn out too good. But for the most part, I have a yellow belly and an olive top. You can also go at it with scissors and
Hey, Mike, I got a question.
go ahead.
Speaking of scissors, how have those been working out for you compared to what you were using?
Boy, these Renomed scissors,
Yeah.
um, they're slightly serrated, super sharp. And so for something like this, they're amazing. If you have a little bit of dullness in your scissors, it's just going to push that hair away. And
Yeah, usually scissors will do a hack job on a bug like that, but those seem to be working pretty well.
yeah. So I'm going to,
Yeah, Sun Tao uses those scissors a lot. And I think, didn't Dave Jacobs use a pair of scissors like that, or did he use Andramas?
uh, Not sure what Tim Jacobs used.
Tim, I mean, excuse me.
Dave
Um,
Jacobs uses them too.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I thought.
he does.
They're good scissors. One pair I had to send back because they were defective, but they
Really?
replaced them right away, and
Hmm.
it was just where the bend was. It wasn't any good. My straights were really good. My curved weren't, but I like my curved. I use them mostly for everything. But I've got straight and curved for those scissors. They're made in Poland, so who knows if they may go up in price or not. Again, not a political statement, just who knows. But the serrations are nice on it. It really does hold on to material.
So you can just kind of keep shaping it however you. Got it from this way. So that looks pretty good. Still have some stuff around the eye. Very fine tips on these too. Now, what a lot of Jeff Rowley, um, Tim Jacobs does it once in a while, but if you hit this with steam, all that hair just stands straight up again, and then you go back and clip it again, and eventually you'll have a looks like styrofoam body. I don't have any doll eyes anymore.
We lost your voice, Mike.
Yep. It fell off while I was reaching for my doll eyes. I don't have any. So for the eyes, um, it's best to use a flexible cement, which I don't have. What I can do temporarily actually is a good thing that a lot of people use is Dave's Flexament. It's a flexible, similar to super glue. I can put a little bit of,
Yeah, another one that might work is E6000. That's pretty flexible and a pretty good cement.
right, and you can make Dave's Flexament. Tim Jacobs talks about it. I'm not sure what it dilutes with, if it's rubbing alcohol or if there's a that material is. I forget the name of that chemical.
Toluene,
Yeah, toluene or whatever.
part of the benzene family.
Yep. What my thought is use a little bit of super glue just to get it in place. And then, well, I'm going to mess with that later. maybe do some UV resin over the top of it. And then on the front as well, you can, this is going to be crazy. Get my deer hair out of the way. If you heat up, it'd be better with a like a stouter bodkin than this. This is kind of a, but just heat it up. And then use that hot bodkin. And it makes the hair kind of that heat makes it stand back a little bit. And again, you could put some Dave's Flexament on the face of that as well. That's kind of a cool looking bass bug. Yellow on the belly, mostly olive on the top, and then kind of a weird stripe. I just unglued my eye there. I'll mess with those eyes later.
What size rod would you anticipate using to throw it?
Especially this big. That's a 1/0 1/0 hook and a pretty wind resistant fly. That would probably at least a 6 weight. A 5 weight might be able to throw it. But
I
if it
think
was
like today, I'd probably use a Canon.
yeah. It'd be probably a 6 weight, I'd say. And I mean, you can go down in different sizes with these as well. The thing about UV resin that you have to remember is it has to be able to, the light has to be able to get to it in order to cure it. So, it doesn't help much if the UV resin goes down inside those hairs. But I'm hoping that'll kind of stick it more for a little while. If I catch one on it, I'll be happy. If I catch more than one, I'll be really happy. Get around the edge a little bit there.
Mike, is that printer resin from Al?
Yes.
Yeah, I started using that. I really like it.
So for the weed guard, I did some out of cork back in the olden days. It was a little bit harder to do that. But and with these big hooks, you got to take a pretty deep bite on them too. Move this out of the way. Cap my resin. Basically with a, where's my monofilament?
Can you move your camera again, Mike? We can't see. All we can see is the bend of the hook.
Yep. I just want you to see the bend of the hook. I had to pull a big drawer out. I have a little bag with some mono here. Stouter mono, maybe like 30 pound. Could maybe even go a little heavier. I'm not sure what this is. I think this is 30. But basically, I'll just do it with this. So if I was tying on that skirt, I would want the weed guard to be in place first. So let me do it. I'll still be able to do it like this. Move the hook up to more horizontal there. So I don't want to go too much past the point of the hook for making the legs, the skirt, if you will. Take that thick mono. And on the top, just tie it down like you can kind of assume, but actually go down around the bend of the hook a little bit. And then we'll come back up. And then you can go ahead and tie the rest of your skirt and do the rest of your fly. And then once everything's done, let me move the thread back to the front here. So I'll have the rest of the fly will be completed. So then you can just take that mono and come around to the front. Imagine this with all that deer hair in there. But once it's completed, then you just bring it back to the front like that. Now, how I've done it in the past too is actually coming through the eye. But it depends on how big around the hook eye is, whether you can do that or not. But when the fly's done, you just wrap it around like that and then secure it. I think how I did it before was feed it up through the eye like that. Make sure the twist is not working against you. And then actually crimp it down and tie it like that. So then once that's cut away, that would be your weed guard. And my phone is just about out of juice. So that was the ad hoc bass bug. See,
Enjoy.
That's a Mike and fry.
that's a
Look,
Mike,
A Mike and
yeah.
fry.
Frank and Mike and fly.
Looks beautiful. I don't think I could throw it, but it's
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I probably could have trimmed that down even more. I probably should take those eyes off and just maybe take some more of that body off. I go back to that camera.
Should be able to pitch it with an 8-weight.
I mean, if you look at the difference of Tim Jacobs, who's been doing it for years. Another thing is he'll take a needle, a big-eyed darning needle, and run some legs through there once he's done. Put a little bit of glue on there and then pull it through, and then it sticks in the glue. But you can see how dense that hair is, and that's from using belly hair. Belly hair is a lot bigger diameter than this, and you can see it's trimmed down quite a bit further than what that is. I think that's a smaller hook though. That's about a size 1 hook. This is a 1/0.
Yeah, it looks really nice and it's pretty, but you know what? They probably won't catch any more fish than yours will, Mike.
I think just this marabou gets in the water, and even when it's the key with a bass bug, what I've always read is you want to throw it out there and then just let it sit for like an excruciating maybe 2 minutes, and then just barely twitch it. I mean, you think of a popping bug like that with the flat face that you'd want to just, you know, keep jerking it along and popping it. You can give it one, but then just let it sit there for a really long time. And they'll sit up underneath there. I don't know if you've ever watched a bass with something else, but they'll just switch back to me. They'll just come up, the thing sitting up there on the water, they'll just come up there and just kind of study it for a little while and stare at it. And if they see those rubber legs move a little bit, or they see the marabou move a little bit, that might be what makes them commit.
Bluegill do the same thing when you're fishing dries or subsurface or poppers.
They do.
They come up and look at it and wait and wait. I usually cast and wait, give it a count of 10 before I do anything.
I don't know if it's a red ear thing, but I was at Prairie Queen and I saw some beds. So I put on a gurgler and I threw it over there. And this red eye came with his back out of the water.
Yeah.
Came at that thing from about 2 feet away with his back out of the water and nailed it.
I've seen them come completely out of the water to nail a fly like that. It's amazing, It's more fun than
I
trout
had one
fishing.
do that a couple of years ago at Prairie. It actually came up out of the water when it hit it.
Yeah.
But this one came like, I didn't know what it was. It thought maybe it was bigger the way it looked, but his back was sticking out of the water and he just came right at it and smacked it.
Rule of thumb on bass poppers is once they hit the water, you wait till all the rings have gone away.
Yeah,
I've
heard that.
read that too.
Yeah.
Just until that thing is sitting perfectly still.
Yeah.
Then just the slightest movement and they'll bust it.
Yeah.
Also hang like a big bushy fly, like a Gartside sparrow or casual dress, something like that, or like even a bigger nymph. Hang that off of this or off the eye. They may come up and look at the bass bug and study it a little bit, but then they see that nymph underneath it, and a lot of times they'll hit that before they'll come up to the surface and hit that.
I also noticed, Mike, that somewhere in your past